All right, so the big question is why did the market crash yesterday? Why did it pull back? Now, today we are popping slightly in the morning here, and will we continue to move forward? Well, I'm going to give you a quick little answer. It's really simple when it comes down to it's there were more sellers than there were buyers. That's it. You can stop the video right here and end it if you want. But I'm going to go into details of why this happens and why you click this video. I really just need a little more watch time. So the reason why it went down, a lot of people will make videos on why things went down, and then they'll start talking about economics, the Fed, the this, the that. It really, when it comes down to it, does not matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because you as a human, what's happening is you're trying to seek a purpose, seek a reason, because you have a brain that's called a storytelling brain. And this brain is trying to connect the dots. But really, when we look at the marketplace, it could happen at any moment. It's really just sellers and buyers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share with you some charts and some cool things going on the marketplace. We'll just chat about what could be a good entry point, where we maybe oversold, overbought. And the more important thing is how are you structuring your positions? How are you managing your risks? But nobody likes to talk about those things. Instead, you're talking about just the general concept of why. Why? Well, maybe grandma decided to dump a bunch of shares. Maybe there was a hedge fund that got in a panic. Maybe it's coming close to the year. There's a lot of reasons why. And the only real way, as Mark Douglas would say, to figure out the reason why people sold was to ask every single person why they sold their shares. Anyways, looking at the market, we did have this big down tick and bar coming in. And yes, I do draw some boxes sometimes just for artistic purposes and really check out expected moves and so on. But we had this big bar that took out probably about a week's worth of gains, and then we're coming back a little bit. So the market, in theory, technically speaking, is stretched for a little while. I mean, we've been going pretty much in a straight line. I think a little more of a normal angle or range to go is kind of around this level, and that's okay. Everybody's got a different opinion, but it's got a little bit ahead of itself, maybe accelerated. So one red day here or there is okay. It flushes things out. Now we could continue. The problem here is we could continue to move to pull back further, and the way that the pullbacks work is they don't work in a straight line. What you'll find is they'll pop a little, then they'll pull back, then they'll pop a little more, they'll pull back, and they'll kind of work in this fashion. And that's what you need to be a little bit more cautious about. So the big question is when you get a big move like this, is it the start of something to continue moving lower, or is it just normal digestion? Because you could have a big nasty bar and then a further continuation. So just to show you one of those examples, look, over here in this area, we've had some bigger down moves. And then right at this spot, we had this pretty big nasty bar. And then the market continued to move a little bit higher. Now, later on, it did start to move lower, some sideways, and then move lower again. So does that bar matter in the sense of over here to this level? So does this bar matter in this context? Maybe, depends how long your trade was. But if you're looking at a shorter duration, it did not matter as much. So let's say you got bullish somewhere around here, and yeah, you had this down bar. If you stuck with it, you still were fine for that trade in time period. So what's important to recognize is what's your trading time period? What's your hold? And how is it relative to what positions you have? So that's what you really want to look for instead. So now the question is are we starting something new? So when you look at something like Caterpillar, it can be a little confusing. So we've been going up with Caterpillar for a while, and then we've had this big pullback, and now we're starting to grind up. So could this be an entry or time to buy? You might say, well, let's look at the volume. The volume actually told you to slightly sell, but now price is still going up. So in the short term, we're starting to pop. If you look over here on the sell side versus the buy side on the daily volume's actually looking good. But this bar right here, there's not a ton of volume coming in on the sell side, not as big as on the upside. So could it still pull back maybe to 275? Absolutely. But overall, it still looks okay. So this is where you're starting to look at, well, how far is too far? So I want to show you another thing here. Let's go to Boeing. Like, look how far stretched this is. Yeah, but stretched, the direction it's still going up. And this is it until it's proven otherwise. Now, do I think, hey, maybe the run's a little extended, be a little careful? Yeah, be a little more cautious. But nevertheless, look at some of these stocks that are making some lows or some highs. Here's FedEx, which I did a video on not too long ago. It's pulling back, but look at the run it had. We got a big run, boom, stock pulled back, and now you might get some people to nibble somewhere around this level. You don't know. So let's take out a look at some stocks in general. So we're going to start out with Microsoft here, and this is kind of the big daddy and big boy stock. This one continues to do well and hold up. We had a little pullback yesterday, but I'd say watch this support level around 365. If we look at some of the tickers, Microsoft, Apple, IBM, Amazon, Google, all doing pretty well today, relatively speaking. So we're continuing to move up. The next one I want to take a look at that also had a little bit of a pullback is we're going to take a look at McDonald's. McDonald's had a little bit of a pullback not too long ago, just these couple of bars, but overall it's been trending well, and now it's pulled back a little bit. And if you look at just overall the price action, you got Yum Brand, Starbucks also doing pretty good. Actually, in fact, let's take a look at Starbucks here briefly and pull that up. So when we check out Starbucks, this stock's had a little bit of a trouble here in November, and we're going to see if this is going to be able to reverse. So take a look at here what we've got. Okay, 2022, you've got some lows at 72. You got resistance around 110. You've got support around 90. Okay, this range. So the stock's been kind of going sideways, and you're kind of coming into possible support level where people might start nibbling on it, value buyers. You've also had this long stretch to the downside. On a weekly basis, if you actually just look at the bars, it's 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 3 bars down for the week. Almost 4 and 5. You're kind of coming in there, but this bar technically is still green. So 3 bars in a row to the downside, but overall the action doesn't look very good. But now is where you might say, okay, well, can we start coming into around this 90, 91 level for some support? And this is quite possible here. So, but we'll see. You still might fill in more of this section and zone. Anyway, let's go and take a look at another one. And I want to check out PayPal for you guys. PayPal's continuing to move okay after this nasty down move. So we've had a pretty rocky start on PayPal. You can see in 2021 to 2022, we've had this big cliff dive, and then we continued to pull back. Now, we hit 50, and the support was kind of coming in. And this 50 coming in allowed that stock to start to pop. So the question is can this start to reverse, or will we still continue on the longer term downtrend? You got to be careful, obviously, because the long-term trend is still down. But sometimes when these stocks get oversold, people come in and buy them. Okay. Your goal is not to think what you think the stock is going to do. It's not about what you think. It's to think about what all the big players are going to do in this situation. Okay, so what will the big players do? And that's your goal and objective. So when you start watching this, then you can see, okay, well, they might start nibbling on it. And this is possibly why around the $50 they started doing it. It's the same thing where what if PayPal does some share buybacks later? That's also another possibility. Anyways, just as a side note, if you want me to check out some stocks, just put them in the ticker in the comments area, and I will check out some stocks for you. Let's take a look at also, I'm going to look at Shopify here for you. Also one that's been doing quite well and continues to power higher. I mean, the stock was doing quite well back here around the $700 level, powered higher, sold off, came down into around a $30 price level, had a lot of buyers step in. Even 25 it started to come in, but then we started to kind of move in this angle and direction. I think right now, temporarily, you might see some selling pressure getting into these levels right here around 80 because of this resistance. But nevertheless, the stock's doing pretty well, especially recently. So we've got support around this 51. You had resistance around 70. It came back to test that and still powered higher. So overall, stock's doing well and continues to make some moves. Some of the related companies, Amazon CRM, Etsy. Also, Etsy was doing quite well this week. And it's getting back into this sideways consolidation pattern. But you've got this stair-step approach with Etsy that's been going on and just continues to do well. Very similar to a lot of the tech companies where the stock sold off, you kind of have this A to B, B to C, C to D pattern. So A, B, C, D. But then if you look at it, you also have an A to B, B to C, C to D pattern. A, B, C, D. Okay. So anyways, those are a handful of stocks for you. Definitely write a note in the comment if you want me to review some tickers. Just thought I'd share a few here for you. After the market had this little pullback, keep an eye on some of those critical support resistance levels and just overall in the SPX and SPY. Check out our website if you want to get some freebies and so on. But remember, the market pulls back. Really, there's more sellers than buyers. That's the long and the short of it. As for the reason why, it doesn't really matter. Manage your positions, manage your money, manage the risk. That's way more critical and important. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.